stop me now. I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now if you want to have a good time. Just give me a call. What's up, Cinnaberries? It's Ryan from Razz Reviews. And today I went to go see Bohemian Rhapsody, a biopic on the band Queen, and mostly focusing on Freddie Mercury. And if you haven't noticed, I'm kind of a bit of a Queen fan myself. So I had to go see this movie, and I got back not too long ago. I took some time to really think about the movie a bit, because it was long, and it was a 2 hour and 15-minute movie. But there was a lot for me to go and think through, because unfortunately well, I don't know if you want to be mean by unfortunately, but I was born in the 90s, and that, unfortunately, I was born about a month and 2 days after Freddie Mercury had passed away. So Queen was pretty much done when I was born. But thankfully I have parents who love me, and my dad, we would listen to the radio, and Queen would come on the radio, and I fell in love with the band right then. I thought their music was great. I believe the very first Queen song I ever heard in my life was either We Will Rock You and then We Are the Champions, or it might have been Another One Bites the Dust, but I'm pretty sure it was We Will Rock You. It was the very first Queen song I ever heard when I was growing up. And right there I became a fan of it. So yeah, the movie itself, I'll be honest, I pretty much went in with only maybe a few expectations. Not really necessarily high expectations, not necessarily low expectations, but I was just going in, and I just wanted to go in and have a good time. I just wanted to watch, maybe learn a little bit about the history of Queen. And I know it's a biopic, maybe not everything in the movie actually happened throughout the career of Queen. I can't say. I'm not very familiar with rock and roll biopic movies. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the first one I've ever seen. So, but my expectation was I was going to go in, I was going to have fun, I was going to enjoy it as much as I could. And for the most part, yeah, this movie really did that for me. It made me feel proud and happy to be a Queen fan, and I had to try my best not to sing too loudly in the theater, being next to a lot of people. So I just lip-synced through all that, and man, was it hard to contain myself, because there were some times I just wanted to bolt out and sing some of the songs. Let's go a little bit with some of the negatives maybe with the film, because surprisingly when I checked on this, critics have not been very kind with this film, saying that it was, basically a generic biopic film. It went through all the formula cliches, such as this is how the band started, here's the rough patches that they went through, fighting in the band amongst band members. Eventually they're coming back together and all that stuff. And I'm not very familiar with rock and roll biopics or musical biopics. It's not a kind of genre I go and see or have watched much of. So this was a very interesting experience for me. But no, I just had a good time, and there really wasn't too much that I didn't like. If anything, perhaps the pacing at the beginning felt a little rushed, because we went from, maybe it's the pacing throughout the whole thing, but for the most part the pacing was great. The parts where it just didn't feel like, maybe it was, the pacing was off, was we went from Freddie joining up with Brian and Roger, and it was boom, they started off the band, boom, they're doing this, they're doing their first little gig, and boom, now we're at were recording our first album, and it was so that was a little bit off, I think, to me. But overall, there was really not much for me to nitpick because again, I was just going in to have a good time and celebrate myself as a Queen fan. And yeah, there were so many good things about the film. There were some really great scenes in the film, particularly some of the scenes between Freddie and his family. I liked those scenes with his dad and his mom. But the best scenes to me that really stood out were Freddie, who was played by Rami Malek, and then Mary Austin, who was played by Lucy Boynton. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, those scenes between those two particular actors were really stood out to me in the film. But if anything that stood out the most, obviously, was Rami Malek's performance as Freddie Mercury. I thought it was a great performance and really the true highlight of the film. And I got caught up in and Freddie's persona or personality and his charisma. I was getting sucked into it. I really liked that. And I guess if there was any other negatives, perhaps I mean I know it was more of it was a film centered focusing on Freddie's life, but at times it does feel like yes, it's focusing on not just Freddie. It's focusing on the other characters and band members. But I kind of wish maybe we had a little more of that. But again, I'm pretty sure, especially how the film was marketed, it's focused on Freddie. So I really can't complain too much there. But yeah, no, the casting of this movie was on point. I loved everybody. Gwilyn Lee as Brian May was a pretty good job. Ben Hardy as Roger, and then Joseph Mazzello as John Deacon. On point, I think, or as much as I know. Again, I haven't seen too many documentaries about the band or learn. I don't know these people. I didn't know the band members, so I can't say, oh yeah, no, perfect. You nailed the personality, or who the person of Brian May, Roger Taylor, and John Deacon, who they were. But as far as their performance, it was good. I enjoyed it. But yeah, Rami as Freddie stood out. The likeness of his face with him and Freddie, it was really good. Especially when we got to the part where now Rami's got the mustache. He looked just like Freddie, and it just... My suspension of disbelief was fully suspended because I was sucked in and I was just soaking up every minute of this film. But and then I guess one last thing for anything that was negative, I kind of wish there were some songs that I personally liked that were in the film, but some of them weren't as well known, so I kind of understand why they weren't in there. Specifically, the song I'm thinking about is The March of the Black Queen, which is one of my personal favorite Queen songs, but it didn't make it into the film. But I kind of understand why it wasn't. I don't think, as a movie maker, I would have been able to find a way to put that song in. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe among the montages, But yeah, that's a really small nitpick and doesn't really hurt the film. But yeah, so I've already mentioned some of the positives. I've gone back and forth with positive and negatives. But yeah, the positives in this film, and what's really strong about it was, there were times in the theater where I had to also stop myself from outright crying because I started to tear up and I got emotional about some certain scenes. Like, there's a spoiler alert, by the way. I'm sorry for saying it so late, but there's a scene where Freddie's about to go to Live Aid and he's with his friend Jim, and basically they're at his parents' house, Freddie's parents' house, and Freddie's telling him to his father that they're going to Live Aid to, help raise awareness for AIDS and raise money for those who have contracted the disease. And he has a tender moment with his father, because his father thought when Freddie was going into his life choices, like, you're not on the right path, Freddie. You need to do stuff that's for the good of people, to help mankind, kind of a message. I'm probably not saying the line accurately, but somewhere along the lines, like, his father didn't think Freddie was on the right path, and he should do more to help the world and help the people. And so at that point at the end, where he's telling his dad, I'm going to go to this concert and nobody gets any money out of it. We're raising money to help people. I'm doing it for good, like you taught me, Papa. And I that at that point I nearly broke down, because I thought that the scene was beautifully acted and it felt real. That's another positive about this film. There were so many moments that felt real to me, and it was heart-wrenching, and it got my emotions up. So any film that can pull any emotion out of me, it definitely is a highlight of any film. If it can do that, to me, it's a good film in my book. There was another scene that was able to really pull emotions out for me and made me feel like, this is real, and I got a bit emotional, was when Freddie was coming out to Mary saying, you're the love of my life, but I also like men. So, and when at that point Mary was going to be taking off the wedding ring, and Freddie was devastated. He's like, no, you promised you wouldn't take that ring off, but he clearly still loves her, and it was just, that scene was just hard for me to get through, because I was tearing up, and I felt so bad. I felt bad for Mary. I felt bad for Freddie, because to me it sold that, yes, Freddie does love her, but he can't be with her. He doesn't like, well, how should I say this? He just has other preferences, and he just can't be, I guess, committed to being with her as a fully marriage, sign the paper, we're a married couple kind of thing. And it hurt to watch that, and it hurt to see these two people, their hearts were clearly broken from it. But yeah, no, like, again, this movie had a lot of good highlights and well acted scenes. There were so many scenes that had a lot of fun, like watching them record Bohemian Rhapsody. That was a lot of fun. That was probably my favorite scene out of the entire thing, was just watching them get ready to make Bohemian Rhapsody. As well as some of the other ones, like The We Will Rock You and Another One Bites the Dust. Watching them come up with those ideas and all that was just a lot of fun to do. The movie definitely hit its stride at the end, when we got to see all them perform at Live Aid, which now I'm going to take the time to plug this in. If you haven't seen this on Twitter, back when the first trailer came out, they were doing a Put Me in Bohemian Rhapsody, where fans could submit their voice and sing part of Bohemian Rhapsody that Freddie would be singing at Live Aid. And what they did was they took all the fan submissions of thousands and thousands of fan submissions, and they put them in all together and mixed them all together to simulate the crowd singing along with Freddie. And I'll show you this. This is the email I got, because I had, as a Queen fan, had to submit my voice, and then I got this email saying, congratulations, your voice has been mixed in and you're now part of the film. So, as a Queen fan, to be a part of a movie, even if I'm not getting a credit for it, even though as I watched it, I could not. There were so many voices. It's so hard to pick out your own singing voice. But knowing that it was there made me really happy and proud to be a Queen fan and say, hey, I might not be able to hear me, but I'm in the movie. But yeah, there's really not much else I can say that other than this is a really good movie. I enjoyed it. Is it, like, Oscar worthy? If any of it is, I definitely say it would probably be Rami Malek's performance as Freddy. Because that is truly... Go see the movie just for that performance alone, I'd say. Because it is captivating. It's one of the things that pulled me into the film and made me, get emotional. Because I was able to commit and believe in these characters. Were some characters not really well developed? You can have that argument. I think that's a valid argument. Could you argue that... Freddy, being gay, was that really explored a lot in this film? To a degree, it was, but yeah, I definitely would think anybody who would argue against that would definitely have a valid argument. Because it did feel like it focused more on him and Mary, but they have such a unique relationship from what I've heard and what I've researched on. It wasn't too hard to believe that they would go and focus that on more, because it was a very highlight thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure Freddy has been quoted somewhere that, despite who he's been with, they could never be Mary to him, because Mary was the love of his life. And that basically they were married in a way. So... with that being said, before I get into final verdicts, I'm going to read some tweets. I did get a few tweets from some friends, and then I'm going to read some other tweets about people said about the film. So let's go ahead to my friend Christian. He's tweeted me and said, I'm sure if I YouTube them, I can hear songs I recognize, but currently I can't think of any Queen songs off the top of my head. But I hope you enjoy the movie anyways, buddy. So yeah, Christian, I did enjoy the movie. Obviously, if you watched through the whole thing, this video. But yeah, no, and that's okay. Not everybody's, that's the beauty of music, is that everybody has different preferences. So even though you might not know Queen like off the top of your head, or you're a big fan of them, if you know some of the songs or enjoy any of the songs, that's fine. And like I said, there's some songs that I know, like I have to find on YouTube before I like, oh yeah, it was by that person in that band. I forgot about that. There's some songs I don't even know the title of, and I just have to hear the song, and it's like, oh, I know that song, but I don't know the name of it. So no hard feelings, Christian, if you can't remember any on the top of your head. But yeah. So I got another tweet from Howard Kelly. At LTC Crimson C says, I liked them when I first heard them, but now it's sort of boring because of how much I used to listen to them. Now I gotta get in the mood or listen to a cover. Howard, that, like I was just saying about the Christian's tweet, that's the beauty of music. Everybody can, that's a way we as human beings can bond. We have such an array and such a variety of different genres of music that we can bond over. Not everybody's gonna like it, and I can actually agree with your point as far as there's been several bands where I listen to them and I love them, but after a while, yeah, it does get a bit boring, and then I have to be in the mood to hear it. That's happened to me so many times, it's not even funny. There are some days where I will skip a few Queen songs. I will admit, there are some days like I'm not kind of feeling listening to Queen at the moment. But that's the other thing though with Queen. Queen is the one band where that kind of thing rarely happens with me. I will like, oh yeah, if there's one Queen song that I'm not in the mood for, I'll find another Queen song that I am in the mood for, and I will belt my heart out as I sing it. Because that's the beauty of Queen. Queen and Freddie Mercury. they had such a unique, like, they just had so many different types of music that appealed. Rock and roll, mixing opera in there, disco, so many things. It was just, that's what I love Queen. They can be different, and they didn't stick to formulas. Like the movie said, we don't do formulas. They don't want, and Freddie's like, I don't do the same thing over and over again. It's boring to me. I want to, and they experimented, and it's like, yeah. I'll agree with you. There's some music at days like, I'm kind of bored with this. I kind of don't want to listen to it. But with Queen, if there's one song that's like, I'm not feeling this song today, let me listen to a different one. So, but yeah, no hard feelings if you feel that way. Now I'm going to go to another tweet that I found. A friend, I consider a friend of mine. He is a fellow listener of the Dr. DC podcast. And I am going to do the drop, so please, Richard or Doctor, please don't get mad for doing your drop. So this is from Chad Bokeman. He said, so Bohemian Rhapsody. This movie is nothing short of a pure-hearted celebration, period. So see it. I really, really enjoyed every microscopic moment. And Mr. Bokeman, I am right there with you, buddy, because there was a lot of good moments in this movie, and I loved it. There's no beating around the bush. I loved the movie. Was it fantastic? Was it the best thing I've ever seen out of 2018? Maybe not. But you know what? As a Queen fan, I definitely agree with it. It is a pure-hearted celebration. And I stuck. This is the only time I've ever stuck in a movie theater watching the whole credits, just because they kept playing Queen music, and that was the only reason why I stayed. I didn't stay because I know there wasn't going to be an end credit scene, but I stayed for the music. Dang nabbit, because I love Queen music. So yeah, no, not gonna argue with that point at all. So I'm going to find one more, and then we'll get to final verdicts. And with our last tweet is from Emily Grace. She says, Bohemian Rhapsody is truly the closest I feel I will ever get to seeing a Queen concert live. I've seen Live Aid before, but this was immersive. It was so thrilling, and I wanted to watch it again and again. I laughed, I cried, I gasped. See it in theaters, folks. Oh yeah, Emily, I am right there with you, because this movie was great, and I loved it, and I totally agree. It felt really immersive, and I felt like this is the closest I'm going to ever get to seeing a live Queen concert. So with that being said, yeah, that's basically it. So, time for final verdicts. With everything that I've said, I am going to be giving this film a 4.5 out of 5, because despite some of the things that I kind of bothered me a little bit, it was just a great film. I really loved it. It's, like I said, any movie that can pull any kind of emotion out of me, and I'm sure I've said this in other reviews, but any movie that can pull an emotion, a strong emotion out of me, is a great movie in my book. And again, Raimi's performance as Freddie Mercury knocked it out of the park. And not just him, everybody who did their part. Playing the guys who've played Brian, who played Roger, who played John, they also did a fantastic job. I know it'd be easy to give all the credit to Raimi's performance, but I have to give the fair due to the other actors and actresses, especially the one who played Mary. Phenomenal job. I just cannot say more than that. I love the movie. If you are a Queen fan, I honestly feel, and you can take this with a grain of salt or not, I don't know, but if you're a Queen fan, I feel you are obligated to go to this movie. You have to go see this movie, because this movie is really good to me, in my opinion. Forget what the critics have said. Make your own opinion. Go watch it. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's the nice thing about having an opinion. You can have one. It's okay. You don't have to agree with everybody. But I feel you should go see it. If you are a Queen fan, go see this movie. But yeah, with that said, 4.5 I feel is the best score I can give it. I can't give it quite the perfect score, but darn is it close. So, but yeah, and there might be a little bit of bias in there, and if you want to call me out on it, I won't argue against you, because there is a bit of bias when it comes to Queen, because I love Queen. And also, do stick after the credits, just to listen to the music, because there's one song that they couldn't put in because the time that the song was made, it wouldn't have fit into the film. And at the end of the credits, the song, The Show Must Go On, which is one of my personal favorites, songs by Freddie Mercury played. And I since there was hardly anybody in the theater, I was able to sing that one out loud without being shunned, I guess. Well, with that being said, if you liked the video, click that like button. If you want to see more of our content, please subscribe. Be sure to follow us on Twitter or like our Facebook page. If you want us to do any further episodes to talk more about Queen, because Sam is also a bit of a Queen fan, but he didn't really have time to go see this movie with me this weekend. So, but yeah, I guess I'll end it with my top 3 Queen songs, because if you want to know more of where I would rank my, or if you want me to make a top 10 list, I will be more than happy to, but I will give you a little taste of my top 3 Queen songs as I close this out, with no giving reasons, because I'm sure this video is already getting too long. So, at number 1, Bohemian Rhapsody, obviously. Number 2, The Show Must Go On. And then number 3, March of the Black Queen. If you want to know more, feel free to tweet me and I'll tell you my whole top 10 list right there. If you want reasons, go ahead and let me know and I'll make a video of why I rank certain Queen songs higher than others. So, with that being said, this has been Razzberry Reviews.